Hi again, and welcome back to How to Be Miserable videos on psychology and self care, sometimes from a backwards perspective. Today's one of those. Subscribe to get notifications in your feed about new videos. Earlier, I posted a video on 3 bad reasons to go into psychotherapy. Therapy can be great, but it depends why you're there and what you think it's going to do for you. Some of the reasons that people seek it out, they just don't go anywhere. So today, I'm going to give you 3 more bad reasons that people seek out therapy. Someday, I will probably do a video on good reasons. I am a therapist after all, so I do believe in it. But for now, let's go back and visit the dark side again. First bad reason, because insight will change you. One of the reasons that people go into therapy is to get insight into their lives. This is completely reasonable. Why is it that I instinctively avoid trying anything new? Where did I learn that sports are so dangerous that I cannot do them? Why do I feel so unsafe whenever I start dating? Why do I sabotage my own efforts every time things are going well? Great. Depending on the match between you and your therapist, you can work on all of those questions. But part of the therapy is discovering hidden assumptions that may be tripping you up. And one of them might be operating here. It's the idea that once you have the insight, you know why this problem exists, the problem will magically evaporate. Years ago, there was a big successful movie called Good Will Hunting, and Matt Damon plays a young, underachieving genius who goes into therapy with Robin Williams. And eventually in therapy, the Damon character realizes that his father's abuse wasn't his own fault. Huge moment of insight, and the problem vanishes. Therapy is over. The insight magically made the whole thing go away. I've reminded groups of therapists at workshops about that movie, and I've asked them, have you ever seen this happen? Big moment of insight and a lifelong problem instantly goes away. Nobody puts up their hand. As far as I can tell, that just doesn't happen. Insight alone doesn't seem to change much. It's useful, though sometimes it isn't essential. If we do standard exposure therapy for a height phobia, for example, it seems to work, even if we never figure out what made this person afraid of heights in the first place. Insight is irrelevant. But similarly, lots of people who go into therapy start out with perfect insight. You know, the soldier who saw 3 of his buddies get killed right in front of him, he's got PTSD. He knows why. It's not a mystery. The person whose spouse suddenly dumped them after 30 years of marriage, they know why they're depressed. The parent who had a child die from cancer, again, no mystery. Their insight is just fine. We can discover little bits and pieces, was the cancer your fault for giving your kid fast food now and then? No, great. But they start out with pretty good insight. There's not a lot to be gained there. People often think, if I can figure out why I keep sabotaging my relationships, I will stop doing it. If I can figure out why I'm reluctant to take on adulthood, all my hesitance will go away. If I can learn what led me into alcoholism, the alcoholism will end. No, it won't. We can start doing the work, or we can have you lie on a couch for 3 years and then start doing the work. but the work will need to be done either way. Sometimes the search for why is actually a hidden delaying tactic. It takes months to figure this out, and until we do, I can keep drinking. I can keep playing video games in mom's basement. I can avoid what I fear. The quest for insight can be a subconscious avoidance strategy. It keeps the problem going. It does not produce change, at least not all by itself. Sometimes you need to stop looking for why and just start making change. Second bad reason for going into therapy, as a substitute for other people. Lots of people have pretty minimal social networks. There's nobody to talk to, nobody to share your fears, your triumphs, your thoughts, your hopes with. Therapy can provide that, and it can be very satisfying. You're talking in a way that you haven't with most of the people in your life, and this person is a trained listener. That can be valuable, and seeking it out is perfectly reasonable. Being heard and understood seems to be a basic human need. But if you get that need met in therapy, there is a small risk, and that is that you'll feel less urgency to get it from elsewhere. I think for the most part, that's fine. If anything, most people come away from therapy thinking, wow, it's possible to talk about stuff other than what I'm watching on Netflix. And having had that in therapy, they can start introducing it and looking for it in their other relationships. But undeniably, sometimes in long-term therapy, that therapeutic relationship can become a substitute for other relationships. You don't need friends. You have your therapist. You don't need to set up coffee or dinners or hikes or movies with other people. You can neglect all that. As an aside, there's a fairly reasonable concern out there that one outcome of the easy availability of online pornography is that at least some people stop feeling the need for intimate relationships. You know, their sex life may not be great, but it's good enough without anybody else, which, fair enough. But most people need to date now and then in order to get any good at romantic relationships. What's that got to do with therapy? Well, a risk of therapy is that it can make a person's social network good enough without friends. And that's not what it should be used for. Ideally, therapy should make friendships more appealing and maybe deeper. And it can help with that. But it should not be a substitute for friendship. Third bad reason for seeking out therapy: to hand off the problem. When you feel overwhelmed by problems in your life, it's tempting to think, I can't deal with this. Let's get someone who can. Makes sense. That's exactly what we do when we have a problem with our car, or our roof, our computer, our teeth, our taxes, or our body. I can't fix this. You fix it. So it's natural to go to a therapist and think the same way. This person is going to make my depression, my ennui, my anxiety, my grief, my anger problem go away. Well, you can guess what I'm going to say. That's not how it works. The difficulty is mostly taking place outside your therapist's office, in a world that your therapist never sees, around people they've never met, in a job they can't do, in a home they've never been in. It sounds discouraging, but a therapist cannot solve your problem. You cannot drop it off as if it was a broken toaster and then pick it up once it's better. Therapy is a collaborative process. in which you explore the problem together and generate ideas about what might help. Partly, at least. Sometimes it helps just being able to talk to someone about what's bothering you. But usually change involves some work between sessions carried out by, guess who? You. Therapy isn't about getting someone else to solve the problem. It's about rolling up your own sleeves and doing it yourself. But with the assistance of someone who has seen that problem before. Okay, those are 3 more bad reasons for going into therapy. There are a lot more. If you think of some, write them in the comments section and maybe I'll do a post on them. Meanwhile, consider subscribing for more posts on psychology, life, therapy, assertiveness, and mental health.